When you say how many times I've been to Switzerland, I mean, it's difficult to count. I would say at least more than 100 times.
And as they say, tourism has bounced back and tourism has bounced back with a bang. Even this year, we are seeing hundreds and hundreds of tourists going to Switzerland and traveling to Zermatt to witness the Matterhorn.
It's the most photographed mountain in the whole world.
You have a new attraction there which is known as the Alpine crossing.
I'm sure you've traveled to many countries with a plane, with a train, with a car, probably a ship. But imagine crossing a border with a cable car. So one foot in Italy, one foot in Switzerland.
Can I be staying in Zermatt and go to the Italian side and come back in a single day? How long does the entire experience take?
1940, there have been no cars in Zermatt. Any time of the year is here to visit Zermatt. You can't go wrong here.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our podcast, Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life. I'm your host, Neil Patil. And today we are going to go to the magical land of Switzerland and we are going to meet a friend of mine, Miss Devika Abraham. And Devika has agreed to do a podcast with us to speak about something that we witnessed a few years ago. But before I come to that, let me just ask Devika to introduce herself. So, Devika, just something about who you are, what do you do, and like how many times have you been to Switzerland?
Hi, Neil. Thank you for having me on your show. It's a great privilege to be here. Just speaking of his journey with Zermatt, I worked with the Zermatt Matterhorn cableways for the last 15 years.
Hmm.
And I'm very privileged and honored to be associated with one of the finest destinations in Switzerland. And when you
Hmm.
say how many times I've been to Switzerland, I mean, it's difficult to count. I would say at least more than 100 times, but
Wow, more than a
not to
hundred
Zermatt, but
times.
yeah, more than 100 times. So Switzerland is very,
You,
very close to my heart.
often we make bucket lists that we want to go to 50 countries, we want to go to 100 countries, but going to one country more than 100 times, that's pretty incredible. And I don't know whether I may have done 100 trips to Europe also, or 100 trips outside of India in my lifetime, but that's pretty incredible. So listeners, when we were speaking to Devika, we decided to talk about two things. One was the Matterhorn and one was Zermatt. Now when I talk about the Matterhorn, if you recall, it was during the month of April or May 2020, when all of us were sitting at our homes, we noticed a mountain on social media. We noticed a mountain which had the flag of India on its entire side, right? And that got us intrigued that as to what mountain this is. That mountain is actually a mountain called Matterhorn. Now, with Devika having been to Zermatt and Zermatt being the gateway to a mountain called Matterhorn, with Devika being there 100 times or more, I wanted to ask you, Devika, let's start the episode with Matterhorn. It's a mountain, everyone knows of that. But what was the significance of having not only India's flag, but all of the other flags all around the world on the mountain every evening? And that was during COVID, everyone was at home. So let's start with that. I wanted to ask you this question.
So, like you said, Neil, the Matterhorn is very symbolic of Switzerland. It's one of the most famous mountains. And Matterhorn kind of is the icon or the symbol of Switzerland. That's why the Matterhorn mountain was chosen. And
Hmm.
like we know, the whole country was grappling with the pandemic, COVID 19. So, to show hope, solidarity, to kind of, show that Switzerland is with us, they were projecting flags of different countries. Gary Hofstetter, the light artist, every
Yeah.
evening, he would go climb up the Matterhorn, project the lights of different countries with a special message to each one. And this was the way of Swiss people showing to the world that we are with you, we care for you. And there is hope, there's light at the end of darkness, I mean, light at the end of the tunnel.
It's just that it gives you goosebumps thinking about that. But that projection really gave many people hope in the world where, the entire world
Yeah.
was grappling with COVID. Now, 4 years on, we are looking at all of the world opening up. And as they say, tourism has bounced back and tourism has bounced back with a bang. Even this year, we are seeing hundreds and hundreds of tourists going to Switzerland and traveling to Zermatt to witness the Matterhorn. Now, Of course, Devika, the Matterhorn is very unique. But what are some of the things that really make it unique? Because it is not the tallest mountain in Europe, right? But why is it so famous?
Oh, yeah, the Matterhorn, first of all, I mean, because of its shape, the symmetrical pyramid shape, it stands out
Hmm.
from all the mountains in the Alps. And
Okay.
I don't know, it's also called the Toblerone Chocolate Mountain.
Oh,
The
yes.
Toblerone, Mr. Theodore Tobler was so
Yeah.
inspired by the beauty of this mountain that somewhere in the 1960s, he said, I have to make a chocolate to this shape. And if you look closely at the Matterhorn and the Toblerone chocolate, there's a little bear inside, the Matterhorn.
Yes.
And actually,
Yes.
because the chocolate was made in Bern, Bern is the flag of, the Bernese Oberland. I mean, the bear
Hmm.
is symbolic of Bern. So there was a Bern in the little bear in the Matterhorn, So it's also called the Toblerone Mountain. It's the most photographed mountain in the whole world.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, it's so charming, it's so majestic, it's so mighty, and it's nostalgia when you're just around it. And and Zermatt is the home to the Matterhorn Mountain.
I think it's a very unique story of the Toblerone Mountain because I had completely forgotten about that. Of course, someone had told me that before, but now that you
Right.
look at a Toblerone chocolate and you look at the a picture of the Matterhorn, it's exactly the same. So, Devika, the Matterhorn is on the border of Switzerland and Italy. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
And in my research, it tells me that you have a new attraction there, which is known as the Alpine Crossing. And
Correct.
the Alpine Crossing takes you on an experience where you do both countries as you go through the Alpine Crossing. So tell
That's
us
right.
what an Alpine Crossing really is, what
Right.
experiences you can have on an Alpine Crossing, and anything that would help our listeners plan a trip to Zermatt and a trip to experience the Matterhorn in a better way.
Right, Neil. Like you said, it borders the Matterhorn borders between Switzerland and Italy. And when
Hmm.
you're actually there, it looks very different from the Italian side. The Swiss side is very, very beautiful, and the Italian side has a different look completely. And the Matterhorn Alpine crossing is very, very unique. I'm sure you've traveled to many countries with a plane, with a train, with a car, probably a ship. But imagine
Yeah.
crossing a border with a cable car, crossing a country with
Mm.
a cable car. So that is the Matterhorn Alpine crossing. It is actually the highest border crossing in the Alps, also in the world, where we
Okay.
take you all the way from Zermatt up to the peak to the Matterhorn Glacier Paradise, which is the highest peak in Europe, the highest excursion at a 12,740 feet. So that means when your guests are doing the Matterhorn Alpine crossing, they're also reaching the highest point in Europe. I mean,
Hmm.
imagine being at the highest platform. Like you said, Matterhorn is not the highest mountain, but the platform where we take you, it's at
Yeah.
12,740 feet. When you reach the
Okay.
top, there are a whole lot of activities from the ice palace to the viewing platform to snow activities. And once you reach the top, then we have new cable cars taking you all the way to Cervinia in Italy. Now,
Okay.
there's a border on the mountain. So 1 foot in
Uh-huh.
Italy, 1 foot in Switzerland. Imagine it's like a photo point, you're reaching the mountain and crossing it with a cable car. And we
not
also
not
have
many
like,
points not many points in the world where you can really do that, where you have one foot in one country and one foot in
yeah,
another. That's pretty cool.
it is. And the views are breathtaking. It's amazing, because you're transiting from the valley into the glaciers, into the mountain, and you actually have to be there to experience the charm and beauty of this. And when you speak of activities, we also have something like the Snow Experience Park on top on the way to the
Hmm.
to Cervinia. Where your guest can actually kind of hire ski equipment, skis, ski instructor, ski insurance at a very nominal fee, and they have this experience of being on the skis. Not many Indians ski, but it's always a dream, to be on the skis, try out something new, take some pictures, and that experience park is on the top, with other activities as well.
While we're talking about the Alpine crossing, can I be staying in Zermatt and go to the Italian side and come back in a single day? How long does the entire experience take?
Yeah, it's very much possible to do a day trip.
Hmm.
You can stay in Zermatt, or if you're coming from Cervinia from Italy, it's also either way around. And it takes only 90 minutes to reach the other side.
Oh,
So
okay.
ideally, the itinerary should start like, you should start early in the morning. Early in the sense that around 8:39 should be a good time to start. Then you have
Hmm.
enough time to explore different points because, the cable car stops at various points. There are restaurants, there are viewpoints, there are activities. So the whole journey up to Chervenia would be 90 minutes one way. So it's
Okay.
very much possible to do a day trip. Or a
Okay.
lot of guests now we see are using it as an exit point from Zermatt. They finish the whole Switzerland itinerary, Zermatt being the last stop, and then they
Hmm.
come to Zermatt and exit into Italy. So that itinerary is also working very well.
So, can I take my suitcases onto the cable car and move into Italy, or is there another way of doing that?
Yeah, we have luggage transfer service. So
Okay.
your luggage will be transferred by special cable cars. So that is
Hmm.
possible. It's like the airport. You just check in your luggage and then you get it on the other side. So,
Okay.
I mean,
Awesome.
it's amazing. Yeah. And the cable cars that we have are state of the art. I mean, it's a thrill ride, very luxurious, very comfortable, designed by one, Pininfarina, who's designed Maserati and Ferrari cars. So the cable cars are designed by them. So that means your guest actually traveling in comfort, style, and luxury. So it's really a unique experience.
I really like how you put it that you must have traveled all around the world and you've crossed borders in an airplane, in a ship, by car or by bus. But crossing a border in a cable car is a rather unique experience and definitely something that I'm putting on my bucket list because I have never really done that. Now, coming to your personal experiences, because I'm still like fascinated by the fact that you've been to Switzerland more than 100 times, right? So now, when you're staying in a town like Zermatt, right,
Yeah.
what are some of your favorite things to do? Like, of course, you go there a lot for work, but I'm sure there are some favorite things that you really like to do.
Yeah. I mean, Zermatt is so unique. It's so charming. It's never enough. That's the feeling you get. I mean, Switzerland itself, but when you come to Zermatt, it's very, very special because
Okay.
unlike, it's not nothing like a city. It's a very charming, very unique town. First of all, it's car free.
Okay.
Since 1940, there have been no cars in Zermatt. So, I mean, just going back to a little bit about Zermatt, when you talk of fairy tales, when you talk of how things are perfect, how everything is so beautiful, everything it's at a different scale. That's what Zermatt is. Like only chalets, no tall buildings, no skyscrapers, no cars, battery operated taxis, battery operated buses. So that means you're breathing completely pure, fresh air and totally surrounded by the Alps, the mountains. So it's a very, very authentic, picture perfect, or the most beautiful town, I would say. Not because I'm working for Zermatt, but you have to be there to experience it. And what I like to do actually, it's all year round destination. Any time of the
Hmm.
year is a good year to visit Zermatt. You can't go wrong here.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course, it's one of the finest ski resorts in the world. So if you're going
Hmm.
in the winter months, it's very, very beautiful, but it's fully, fully
Hmm.
booked. So personally, I wouldn't go in the winter months unless you're a
Okay.
honeymoon or something. But I would prefer to go in the summer months when you also have like good weather, and when you go up in the
Hmm.
mountains, you have snow. And there are whole lot of activities. Actually, it's a paradise for nature lovers for activities. You can go hiking, you can go biking, you can, the helicopter rides, there's paragliding, we have the mountain peaks. So there's no limit to what you can do. So, and,
Okay.
I have the many different areas where you can do soft adventure, you can go into the mountains. And like I said, it's never enough, to be in Zermatt.
So I think because you mentioned that it's a car-free town, and the first thing I would probably do when I hit Zermatt, or I've done that in many other European cities, is I like to just go onto Google and check the AQI of that particular place. Because when we are sitting here in Mumbai, you're looking at the AQI, and sometimes it can hit 200 uh, odd. And when you go into Switzerland, go into any town, and the AQI is like 1 or 2, it really tells you that you're breathing in fresh air. And one of the
Absolutely.
experiences is like just taking in that fresh air. And the fact that it is a car free town makes it all the more unique, in my opinion. Now, let me ask you this one question where everyone likes Swiss fondue, right? And is Swiss fondue a major thing in Zermatt too, or are there any other food recommendations that you would give someone who's really going to visit Zermatt? And that could be, when I say food, it can be chocolate recommendations also, because when you talk about Switzerland,
Correct.
chocolate recommendations do come in.
Yeah, Swiss fondue is definitely one of the things on the list. But
Hmm.
Valais region, where Zermatt is, it's called the Valais region. It's very famous for its raclettes. So
Mm.
yeah, the raclettes, with the cheese, melted cheese on pickled onions, potatoes,
Yes.
and so that's one of the main dishes of Zermatt. And of course,
Hmm.
fondue is there. Then we have rosti, and all these food, all this kind of heavy food goes very well in the mountains. And still,
Yeah.
you're not like too full after eating this. But
Hmm.
yes, raclette, fondue are the things, and there's also dried meat, which is very
Okay.
famous of the region. And not to
Okay.
forget the Valais region, the wines. The wines are very, very
Hmm.
special. They're homegrown. So you have the white wines, the red wines, the Pinot Noir,
Yeah.
you have different varieties of wines, and the local people prefer to have the local grown wines. And when we speak of food, like, there are very, very nice places in Zermatt, from Michelin star restaurants to McDonald's. So it's
Hmm.
like a paradise for food lovers as well. We have many mountain restaurants. But also for the international guests, especially Indians, there are many nice restaurants. The one I would recommend is the Grumpy's, which is like
Okay.
on the main street or the Bahnhofstrasse, Grumpy,
Hmm.
Grampi, where you get the local food, you get European as well as Italian food, and also the vegetarian varieties. So, I mean, it's
Okay.
like a meal for all kind of a thing. And speaking of chocolates, actually, very famous is the Fuchs Bakery.
Okay.
Fuchs is the Fuchs
Okay.
Bakery, which is very famous of Zermatt. And when you're walking on the street, the aromas are so good. And they make a very special chocolate called the Matterhorn. It's like the shape of a
Hmm.
little Matterhorn, and it kind of just
Okay.
melts in your mouth. So it's very special of the region. So that is something you must try when you're there.
I guess that gives us a lot of different things to add to our food list, at least. Now, of course, when Indian travelers are traveling there, would you recommend staying in the town of Zermatt? And if you recommend staying in the town of Zermatt, should it be a 2 or 3 day thing, or should it be a week long stay in Zermatt and then you do excursions from there? What are some of your pointers on that?
See, staying in Zermatt is actually a must. We do have some day
Okay.
visitors who come, and the feeling is it's not enough. It's they're just not satisfied. So when we have a lot of international guests in the winter months, they at least stay for a week, and that's the minimum you need to book a hotel room for. Otherwise, you
Hmm.
don't get like for 1 and 2 nights. But the summer
Okay.
seasons, you can. I mean, ideally, you should stay at least for 2 nights,
Hmm.
and then you can actually experience the different things, the culture, the food, the area. You're just walking around the town doing nothing, and you feel, wow, where am I, into paradise kind of a thing. So at least a 2 night stay is recommended. You actually see the stars at night. It's so romantic when you walk down the streets, the nice restaurants, the mountains in the background. So it's very, very beautiful. So that's what we
And if
recommend.
if And Devika, if I'm like going in the summers, right? Often we are seeing people wanting to ski, but like you said, in the winters, one, it would be very difficult to find accommodation in Zermatt because all of Europe also is trying to go skiing
Correct.
in the ski regions around Zermatt. Now, if that is the case, and April, May, June, July becomes a time when most Indians can travel. So, even in the summer months, are there skiing or snowboarding opportunities in Zermatt? I know that you mentioned it as a all around the year destination, but can I learn
Correct.
how to ski in the months of June and July when it's peak summer in Europe?
Absolutely, because this is the only place in the whole of the Alps where you can ski in the hottest of summer months. We guarantee 21 kilometers of ski slopes. So, I mean,
Okay.
any time of the year is a good year to ski. And, we have a lot of international guests, a lot of NRIs who want the kids to learn, because the international school have holidays in July, August. So that's when they
Correct.
come and they want to kind of ski. So, I mean, we have ski instructors, we give you ski equipment, insurance. There are many ski schools with English speaking instructors. And any time of the year is a good year to learn skiing. So,
But why is it that Zermatt is the only one that is popular? Like, what is the history behind this town becoming so popular that all of Europe also decides to come here?
since Zermatt is, like I said, it's very, very picturesque. Actually, when we
Yeah.
go back into the histories, into the 1800s, it was much before that. It was just a quaint little farming village, very poor village, actually. And
Okay.
a lot of people found the Matterhorn mountain very attractive and wanted to climb it, but it was a very steep and dangerous climb. There were many attempts to climb up the Matterhorn, and
Hmm.
from the Italian side, from the Swiss side. But finally, a Britisher called Edward Whymper, along with his team
Okay.
of 7 people, made it to the top. And
Hmm.
it was really a huge victory, to make it to the top of this dangerous mountain. And
Yeah.
the unfortunate part was on the return, 4 of them lost their lives because the rope broke. But this is
Mm.
how the Matterhorn got its popularity. People from all over the world started saying, "Oh, what is this mountain?" And especially the
Mm.
Britishers, they were very fascinated that a Britisher has climbed this mountain. Even now, when you see, there are a lot of chalets, a lot of hotels which are owned by Britishers. So they came
Mhm.
into Zermatt to kind of, explore the town and kind of see what's going on. And everybody fell in love with this place. So how this such a beautiful, and ever since then it's become a touristic destination from a little farming village.
I can totally
So
imagine because my research also told me that there are no buildings in Zermatt, right? Like you won't see like multi-story buildings. So when you talk about this chalet life or the accommodation opportunities in Zermatt, of course, as in all of Switzerland, there are many family-run hotels. Is that the case in Zermatt too? And if I'm a group of like 10 of us or 15 of us going together, because the Indian families are much
right.
bigger than the nuclear European families, right? So, if that is the case, would it be like multiple chalets that we have to rent out together? Can we cook inside the chalet? There are multiple questions that I'm sure listeners will also have. So, could you throw some light on that for us?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I mean, we have chalets. Mostly there are no tall buildings, no skyscrapers at all. There are a few small
Hmm.
buildings, but only up to 1 and 2 floors, not higher. But mostly it's surrounded by chalets, which are owned by families, most
Hmm.
of them. Of course, we have the leading hotels of the world and so on, the big brands as well. But most of the hotels are family run. And when we speak of apartments, like you said, Indian people, they like to go in family groups of 10 and 15 people. Like a chalet would be like a big apartment. So it is
Hmm.
possible that everybody can be accommodated in a chalet where you have
Okay.
apartments where you can cook, or we have self-service or also catered apartments. We also have luxury
Okay.
apartments, with the bathtub and the balcony and things like that. So there's no end to the luxury that you can ask for, and it's there kind of a thing. But we have basic 3 star to 5 star, 7 star superior as well. So there's something for everybody, accommodation, even youth hostels, backpackers. So, I mean, you can't go wrong. So everybody will find the right kind of accommodation.
And sometimes when you're traveling for 6 or 7 days, the Indian palate makes you crave Indian food. So, will I be able to find Indian food in a town like Zermatt, which is so local, so European in its way, because many
Right.
Europeans come there. So, will I find any Indian food?
Definitely. There was a time when Zermatt said it doesn't matter, Indian restaurant was not a thing for them to even
Yeah.
think of. But since the
Okay.
last 4 years, we have an Indian restaurant right at the
Okay.
station, right as you enter Zermatt. It's called Golden India.
Hmm.
And it's doing very, very well, not only with the Indians, but also with the local people.
Hmm.
The international guests, the locals, everybody loves the food at Golden India. And it's when you pass by the street, it's like a small street. When you look through the windows, it's always full. 7 p.m. and there is no place. It's a 150 capacity restaurant and there is no
Oh,
place.
wow. That's
So
crazy.
that's the demand of this food, not only by the Indians, but also by the locals. And also, what we recently thought, a way to an Indian's heart is through food. So, I mean, usually the individual travelers don't really care. They're happy to have an Indian meal. But we
Hmm.
do have some groups which come in for the day, and for them, food, like you said, is a very integral part of the itinerary. So, we have a new restaurant also on a mountain peak, and
Okay.
there again by the same restaurant. It's catered by Golden India, and it's a
Hmm.
very comfortable height to eat at about 2000 meters, and
Hmm.
we have a capacity of 900 packs. And when I spoke to the owner recently, how's the restaurant doing, and he said, "Oh, it's fantastic, and Devika, I have to tell you something." I said, "What?" He said, "The maximum, the greatest amount of butter chicken that I sell in Switzerland. He has a chain of restaurants. Amount of butter chicken that I sell in Zermatt is the maximum here, even with the local people. So,
That's a good
and
way. That's a good way to put it. Because when you say 900
yeah,
seats, that means that, even corporates can plan a trip with their teams and dealers or like
correct,
employees to a place like that. You mentioned the mountain peak. One question that I really missed out from my list is, when you're talking about the Matterhorn, its pyramid like shape and its unique shape in pictures or whatever. Nowadays, we live in the era where we want to click the best photos. We might not see it with our eyes, but if our smartphone's camera sees it, we are really happy, right? So
correct.
what are some of the best places to get a view of the Matterhorn?
Yeah, see the Matterhorn as you enter Zermatt, it's very picturesque where you see it right there. But there are many, many photo points as well.
Hmm.
One photo point is the Kirchbrook, which is the church bridge, which is
Okay.
right outside in the center of the main street. There's a
Hmm.
little bridge there, and that is like the photo point where people, the tourists, they usually go even before the sunrise. So they see the Matterhorn turning golden. So that is one of the points where you get one of the nicest pictures.
Okay.
Then, like I said, there are various points in the village itself. But another point which it's my personal favorite and I like to highlight, we have like an activity area called the Sunega and Rothon area, where you go
Okay.
up with the funicular
Hmm.
and it's very, very charming. It's an underground funicular. In just 4 minutes, it takes you to 2,200 meters. There's a beautiful lake there. It's a family paradise, a children's playground. You can barbecue there. There's a little raft there. So it's like a small fairy tale kind of picnic area. You go up there and you actually see the Matterhorn so beautiful. It looks so pretty from there. And you see the reflection of the Matterhorn in the lake. And
Oh,
not only
wow.
that, as you go further, it's called the Rothon. You take
Hmm.
another funicular, go up to the Rothon, and
Hmm.
there it's the best view of the Matterhorn. It's the postcard view. And we have something called the Art Gallery of Peaks. There are
Okay.
38 peaks which are more than 4,000 meters high, and you can see them all from Zermatt. And here
Hmm.
the Matterhorn stands out really. When you look there, a lot of people go early morning before the sun rises. You can have a nice breakfast there, see the Matterhorn turning golden. And that's one of my favorites. Like the postcard view is from Rothon.
I think
So
these tips will certainly come in handy, because we will also like pass this information to our tour managers so that our tours can also go to most of these places, because if eventually when you go to a place, you really want to have proof that you went to the Matterhorn, right? So a
absolutely, yeah.
photo a photo of that really makes sense. Now, Devika, coming to your personal trips, right? We've been speaking for the last 25 minutes about multiple things about Zermatt, about Matterhorn. Now, when you've done 100 trips to Switzerland and to Zermatt, and viewed the Matterhorn, I wanted to ask you two things. One is that, what is the best way to pack for a trip to Switzerland? Because I'm sure over your trips you've made mistakes that, oh, I packed too much or I packed too little. So often
Correct.
we see people not packing in the right way. So what are some of Devika's tips when you're packing, whether it's for the winters, whether it's for the summers? But what are your some
Correct.
packing essentials from you?
Yeah, see, Switzerland, actually, I'm always overpacked. That's how I think most Indians are. But ideally, I think you should travel very light. Then you have the
Hmm.
flexibility kind of to move around, and then you're not stressed, about having your luggage everywhere. So, what we need is Zermatt is a little cold. The temperatures are quite low in the winters, and even now it's about 10 and 11 degrees. For Indians, it's quite cold. So, I
Hmm.
usually make sure that you have some thermal wear, like a
Hmm.
leggings and a vest and something to cover your ears and gloves. So that is a must. And after that, you need a windbreaker jacket and something, which just keeps you warm. So you always have to have warm clothes with you for sure. It will be sunny in the day because, Zermatt is known for 300 days of sunshine. So you always
Hmm.
feel the sun is shining, but it's also cold at the same time. So you
Yeah.
always need something warm with you. And going up in the mountains, very important to have proper closed shoes. Any
Ah.
mountain peak for that matter, because shoes is really a must. And Zermatt, you don't realize, You walk so long and you don't feel tired, but to have good shoes makes all the difference. So good walking shoes, I think, is a very important and essential part of your good packing.
I
So,
quite agree, because I think shoes can make or break your trip, right? If you start getting a shoe
absolutely.
bite, or if you have a mesh material shoes, and if you're in the cold, your feet can get cold. So that's pretty good. Now that is a great travel tip, Devika. Now let's us we've packed for our trip, we've gone to Zermatt. Now again, as Indian travelers, we live in a collectivist culture, and we are really proud of that, right? We want to get some things back from Zermatt and Matterhorn for our friends and family. So, what are a couple of souvenirs that you would really recommend picking up from there? It could be chocolates, it could be something else also. But what are two or three things that you would say are great gifts taking from Matterhorn or Zermatt?
see, actually, we have a wonderful souvenir shop on a mountain peak or even down in the village. It's like a whole street, the Bahnhofstrasse. You have the luxury boutiques and the souvenir shops. Like I said, the Matterhornly chocolate is a very nice gift
Hmm.
to give somebody. It's the shape of the Matterhorn and it's really special and of the area.
Hmm.
And then, of course, we have a lot of small souvenirs like the keychains, all in the shape of Matterhorn, Matterhorn t shirts. But I would highly recommend that you bring the Matterhornly chocolate. And of course, the Swiss
Okay.
knives are there. I mean, these are all local Swiss souvenirs, but also, the local cheese over there, something if somebody likes cheese, is also very popular to buy cheese from Zermatt. But the
Okay.
Matterhornly is
I
one
think
thing. If I had to choose, I would buy the chocolate.
I think key takeaways from the last 30 minutes that we spoke about was that try to go to Zermatt not just for a day trip, but spend more days. If you don't have enough days, spend about 2 days. If you have enough days, spend more than 5 days over there, because you can
Correct.
do a lot of things. The biggest takeaway for me is the Alpine crossing, because you can go from one country to another in a cable car. Um,
Correct.
Skiing all year round destination. You can learn how to ski. You can learn how to snowboard. Do you think, Devika, we've missed out on anything? Like, I'm sure you have many things running on your mind when it comes to
Yeah.
these places, but do you think we missed out on anything?
No, I think going to Switzerland and not seeing the Matterhorn is something, it's like not seeing the Taj Mahal in India. When a foreigner comes, what do you tell him to see? You say, go to the Taj Mahal. So actually, they say once in a lifetime, you have to see the Matterhorn. And Zermatt is so picturesque, it's so beautiful. It's like an icing on any itinerary. So you can't go wrong when you send your guests to Zermatt. It's like 80% of our guests are repeat clients. And believe me, it's all satisfied customers. So you cannot go wrong when you're sending your guests to Zermatt. And just one more thing, when we say village, Zermatt is not really a village. It
Hmm.
has a nightlife, it has discotheques, it has pubs. So it's for all ages, from it's a family destination. So any age, any time of the year, you can't go wrong. So
I think I
that's,
think you,
yeah,
you answered it at the start of the episode by telling us how often you have been there. So I think it's a destination where one trip is definitely not enough. But
yeah,
it's probably one trip is after one trip, it's not going to take a lot of convincing to convince someone to like go a second time. But it's
correct.
important that you go a first time and really experience it
Absolutely.
firsthand.
Yeah.
Devika, thank you so much for coming on our podcast, and like we got a lot of information about the Matterhorn, about Zermatt, just so that we can plan our holidays better. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Neil. It was a great pleasure to be on the show. Thank you so much.
So, listeners and viewers, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life. I'm sure Devika has given us enough reasons to visit Zermatt and view one of the icons of not only Switzerland, but of Europe, the mighty Matterhorn. So, if you really like this episode, tell us what you thought. Or if you've been to the Matterhorn, tell us what your experience was like by writing to me at neil, @veenaworld.com. We will see you next time. But until then, keep celebrating life. Bye.